guys, welcome to Friday, April 24th. Let me actually just make this bigger for you guys. We are introing Unit 4 today, which is when journeys collide, or conflict, really, so conflict between people. And we are going to be first going over the conflict today, a PowerPoint. I didn't make this PowerPoint, so it's kind of a little glitchy, but it fully goes over the types of conflict that we will be going through, and also the types of conflict that we'll be seeing in our films that we will be watching for this unit. Well, one film that we'll be watching for this unit. And then, of course, we will go into our mentor text example, which is going to be the story of Arachne. Kind of the start of Spiders, sort of. It's a very interesting story, so we're going to be reading that today. And then, of course, you can follow this link, just like always, to see your choices. So this goes to a full list of links to different stories from the Bible, Greek and Norse mythology, legends and myths, Native American stories, European stories, African stories, and Latin American and Asian stories that have to deal with types of conflict. Alright, so let's get into the types of conflict. Okay, perfect. So, types of conflict. So, first off, why is conflict important? Without conflict, there is no plot. So, if there's any movie that you have ever seen, every single bit of it has some sort of conflict, because without conflict, there's no story to tell. The plot mountain is created around the conflict. Introduced in rising action, that part of the story, you guys know that hill sort of shape that you see in story writing and story analyzing. Rising action is part of it, and then the top of the mountain is faced head on during the climax, and then begins to work itself out during the falling action, and is resolved during the resolution. So you can pretty much break most conflict up into external conflict and internal conflict. So an external conflict is between a character and an outside force. So this is the conflict you'll most likely see. So it's man versus man, man versus nature, and then man versus society. Man versus man is obvious, man versus another human being, or another being of its same species, if you will. So let's talk about Thor, for example. A lot of the conflict, his man versus man, could be considered him versus Loki. That could be considered man versus man. And then man versus nature. You'll see this a lot in survival TV shows and, survival reality TV shows, but also in some different types of literature where a man has to, or a person, man is just the overall human, has to face nature to survive. So they're stranded in the desert and they have to keep going in order to survive. Or their plane went down on a deserted island and they have to find a way how to get off of the deserted island. Stuff like that. And then man versus society, that is overall, here, it actually goes into it a little more, sorry. Man versus society is this, in this conflict, a character or a group of characters fight against the society in which they live. The character fights against social traditions or rules, fight for freedoms, rights, for a cause, etc. And so society becomes a character of its own. A good example is the Hunger Games. Katniss and the people on her side, pretty much the entire nation, is against the Hunger Games because their children are getting killed every year for this event that just is for amusement for the capital. So that is a really great example of man or a group of characters, so one character or a group of characters, going against society's traditions. And then there's different internal conflict, which is a conflict between a character and his or her self. So man versus self, internal conflict. This struggles takes place in his or her mind, usually has something to do with a choice, choosing between right and wrong, or it may have to do with overcoming emotions or mixed feelings. It can also deal with past events. So a person going through something tragic as a child, so a character goes through something really tragic when they're younger, like they see their parents murdered right in front of them. That's really dramatic, but I want to get this example across. And then that affects them throughout their entire lives and the choices they make. Maybe they don't get close to other people or choose to love other people because they're so afraid of using them. Or they're so messed up in the head from losing their parents so tragically right in front of them, they turn into like a serial killer. So man versus self, or the struggle of inner emotions and thoughts. And then other types of conflict that don't really fit into these external or internal is man versus supernatural, so such as gods, ghosts, monsters, spirits, aliens, etc., etc. Man versus fate, fight for choice, fight against destiny. And then man versus technology, computers, machines, etc. This can also consider robots or movies that you see where artificial intelligence takes over and they have to fight against that. And then fate, that one's kind of obscure, but fighting for choice, fighting against destiny. This comes a lot in a lot of science, not sci-fi per se, but in a lot of books or movies where the character is fighting against something that was predicted of them, against their destiny. And sometimes they succeed, but most of the times they don't, but it comes out better than they think it will. So, fighting against fate. And then supernatural is a man versus supernatural is pretty straightforward. So those are the types of conflict, which are the types of conflict, not all obviously seen in all movies, but a few of them will be seen in the film that I will be showing. At this point, by the time that you see this, I'll have it chosen, of course, but at this point I have yet to decide between the two movies that I showed last trimester for this section, so I have to decide between the two, and I'm still kind of going over those choices in my head, but by the time you see this, the choice will already be made, so you'll get to know what the film is, and mostly I'm going to be picking the film that has the most examples of different types of conflict, so that your notes are really full of understanding of different types of conflict through this film. So right now I want to get into the mentor text example, but I don't think I'm going to be able to fit it in the 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes I have left. Let's see. Actually, I will, because it's really short, because this is just a summary from this book. Oops. This in Forlore. And this is just a detailed summary of the Arachne myth. So, once upon a time, there was a Lydian maiden whose skill in weaving was known the world over. She was so good she surpassed all her rivals and became the acknowledged master weaver. An admirer once said, "You must have been taught your skill by the goddess Minerva herself." Not at all. I could compete with Minerva. Minerva is, remember, she's the Roman version of the Greek goddess Athena. So obviously she's challenging this mortal who's called Arachne, is challenging Minerva, who's Athena, and to never really challenge gods because you'll come to regret it, which is why this is a very good example of conflict. Since Minerva was skilled as a weaver, she did not look with favor upon this newcomer, and so she appeared to Arachne, disguised as an old woman. She gently suggested to Arachne that she be satisfied to compete with mortals only. It is unwise to vie with the gods. "I am not afraid of the goddess," Arachne replied, and then, in a moment of heady confidence, she repeated her boast and demanded that Minerva meet her in person in a weaving competition. "I am here," replied Minerva, and she revealed herself in all her glory. Arachne was still confident, unafraid. She proceeded to the contest. Minerva wove a scene of great beauty, showing the gods in all their majesty. The figures were so real they almost seemed ready to step out of the pattern. Minerva also wove into her design a warning to Arachne to stop the contest before it was too late, but Arachne did not yield. Arachne wove scenes of the gods and goddesses, but her designs did not show the deities in a favorable light. Thus she not only defied Minerva, she also poked fun at the very gods themselves. She wove quickly and beautifully. Her weaving was the equal of Minerva's, but the goddess became furious. She demolished Arachne's work. She touched the forehead of Arachne, and at last Arachne realized the error she had made. Because she felt guilty, she hanged herself. Minerva would not let her die. As a lesson to all foolish mortals who might follow Arachne and challenge the gods, Minerva turned Arachne into a spider. And so forever, Arachne spins and spins and spins her web without rest. And to this day, spiders are called arachnids, after Arachne herself. So not only does this myth show great god versus man or woman character conflict, but it also gives you a great word of the day, which I am adding in today as the so you get the background here, and so it's a 2-in-1. So you not only got the definition for Arachne, which is our vocabulary word today, or arachnid rather, but you also got the story behind it and the definition. So you know arachnid is a spider, what they call a spider, and now you know what the origin is from this story and a different type of conflict. So 2-in-1. So this is a great story for us, and that concludes our video for today, actually. So make sure that you're reading the links and choosing what story you want, and then by Monday or Tuesday, I will expect you guys to be sharing on Google Classroom your choice for your project. And remember, it has to be a different type of project every single time from all those different sections, and also what story you're choosing. So I want your project for proposals by Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably decide on Tuesday. So yes, Tuesday the 28th is going to be when your proposal for Project 4 is due. And then on Monday, we will start our first day on the film for this section, and we will follow the journeys, when journeys collide or a conflict. All right, so I will see you Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.